Hello and welcome back to the course. Today we'll be handling a quick little rework. There are a few systems I haven't entirely planned for that we'll be using, and that kind of means that a lot of our code will need to kind of change a little bit, or at least the general structure will need to. This will kind of pull our game a little bit more in line to what you would normally see code-wise, which means you'll be able to apply what you learn just a little bit more in your own projects. The other thing I kind of want to talk about whilst we go through this is a fun little thing called Codeblock, or writer's block for coding, basically. That is actually something that I've been dealing with over the last 4 days. I ended up getting a little bit of a cold and, code blocks kind of happened. Now, I'm going to do this whilst I talk because, or go through both at the same time. That way you don't just have to sit there and listen to me talk. What we're going to very quickly do is design a new level. That's going to be one of the reworks that we do, is a new level, and then we're going to rework the level changing system. So let's do that whilst I talk. Very quickly, new scene, new 2D scene. I'm going to call this level _2, and we'll start adding all of the basic things that we need, including a tile set or a tile map. We're going to be needing the entity spawner that we created before. We'll also be needing the collectible spawn manager. Collectible spawn manager. And we need to add the editable children, or apply editable children to both of these things. Very quickly, this doesn't have access to a timer, which it should, if memory serves. Spawn timer as a timer. So that means in our current level, this one, we have this timer entity spawn manager. I'm making sure this is the correct thing because now I'm very confused. This is a thing that exists, but it does not exist here. Okay, so we're going to go and add that timer to this, or to our original scene, our root scene. So let's go and add a timer to our entity spawn manager. I'm going to give this the name enemy spawn timer. And that way it basically replaces this in code without us actually having to change the code. Now, the one thing to keep in mind is changing auto start and setting that to on. Now we need to take a quick look at how much we want our timings to be, which will be preset here. Okay. So let's hit Control S and save. Let's go back to our level. We now have the spawn timer in here. What I'm also going to do here is the base level, I'm going to go and delete. I'm going to remove that from the level container because we will be doing some things with that, with script. So let's go back to our original 2D or level 2 here that we're messing with. Let's go give it a tile set of new tile set. We'll give it the proper tile set that it needs. Tile set packed, there we go. This needs to be, if you're using the same art pack that I'm using, which is the Kenny Pixel Platform art pack, there is a link in the description, there we will be setting the texture regions to 18 by 18, and the tile size I'm also going to just do 18 by 18 as well, just to make sure it's all kind of synced up correctly. There we go. Now, I've gone through basic level design stuff before. First thing you do is add a physics layer to make sure you can paint the correct tiles with the correct physics tiles. I'm going to basically grab paint, go into physics layer. I'm going to be using these 3 white tiles and pretty much all of these tiles here. We're going to make this a kind of white level. Now I can move into the tile map and I can start painting the tiles that I want to use. So it's all of the white ones. Now, whilst I do this, this is relatively simple. Just point click where you want to paint. Talk about Codeblock. Codeblock is something that I've been dealing with quite a bit over the last 3 to 4 days. It kind of came with the cold and it hasn't seemed to have left with the cold that I picked up, which is a little bit kind of frustrating. Now, as I said, Codeblock is kind of like writer's block. Well, it is actually the exact same thing. And I wanted to talk to you guys about how I kind of deal with that whilst we work on these level design stuff. Because I think everybody runs into it at some point where you kind of just feel a bit lost in a project. You don't really know what you're doing. Or you've kind of sat there and went, okay, I've done all of these different things. What do I do now? Like that kind of scenario. And to be bluntly honest with you, this is where I will say to you, it's always a good idea to have multiple projects going at once. Now, some people will disagree with that. That's 100% like, okay, if you struggle to have multiple projects going, that's entirely fine. Personally, when I am on to only one project, I feel like I end up putting too much kind of attention into it and too much energy into it, and I get burnt out on that project quite quickly because I'm somebody that likes to just throw myself into code a lot, which can be mildly kind of problematic. How do I want this to be? I'm going to want a big level here. Yeah, big line in the middle. I'm trying to do this whilst level design. Very, very weird feeling. Where was I? Yes, multiple projects being a kind of bad thing. And it's like, well, no. Where I'm somebody that kind of thrives on having multiple projects, I've just finished the kind of secondary project that I was working on, mostly, which I was working on for a friend. And now I don't have that. I kind of find myself feeling a bit lost with this project. And it kind of leads me to end up making more mistakes or designing things in kind of weird ways and not thinking things through too clearly. Now, the way that I've kind of said I've fixed that in the past is to have multiple projects. So that means, without me repeating myself and saying the word multiple projects anymore, the way I plan on fixing that is giving myself another project, and that's going to be kind of going in line with this one at the same time. So we're going to be working on this this kind of mini course, and of course, you'll get the sporadic one-shot videos where I just design a system, but I will be deciding to work on just another long kind of form project as well and teach you guys how to make a new type of game. Now, the type of game that I am going to be creating is going to be for kind of more automated, like farming type game, something relatively simple, but delves a little bit more into AI and how to do like resource management and like city building, kind of things like that, something a bit peaceful. That seems like a very fun and interesting idea for me to do for myself. Now, I'm fully open to suggestions and things like that. I hope that would be something that you guys would like to learn, because there's a lot of mechanics in there that can be quite interesting. Also, I think this level will pretty much do for now. I'm going to add some of these little grass pieces. Add the odd snowman, because, snowmen. Take some of these little clouds if I wanted to, and just like kind of put them around. Maybe, no. We will do need to do the water though. So let's go and add a kind of long line of water here, and some flat water, or just kind of boxed water. Boxed water? I don't know what I'm saying anymore. This is the code block. It also kind of happens with me speaking and kind of talking through game design. It's like, what am I actually doing here? Well, I'm designing a new level. Okay. Let's stick with the whole designing a new level thing real quick. Finish that. Yes, new game. It will be a farming type simulator or a resource management simulator. Don't entirely know if it's going to be farming related or just like city builder. We'll see. I'm thinking of a lot of little people running around doing little jobs and kind of messing with that kind of AI. That just seems very fun. And yeah, that's kind of what I want to start doing with this. So what does that actually mean for like this, right? As I said, I want to do it with this. So I'm going to be doing, or trying to do, it's either going to be a video of this and the second project, or one video of the second project and then 2 videos of this. That's kind of how I want to do this, so this series doesn't get forgotten, and we can just keep kind of moving forward with it. But yeah, break is kind of a little bit necessary for me in a certain way. Very quickly, we need to, hit Control S and save with our level completed. Let's move into levels, save this as level 2. That gave me an unhappy message for a second there, don't know why, we'll ignore that. Now I need to add the dead zone. There you go. We created this dead zone a while ago. This is basically a kill anything or destroy anything or Q3 anything that falls into this box. So we are going to go and add that. Did I add a collision shape? Oh, I did. Let's go and re-add the actual collision box. But yes, the other thing that kind of comes with this whole code block situation is the content quality is kind of going down a little bit, right? Where I'm not thinking things through and like as clearly. Why are you doing that? That would be because there is something within the entity spawn manager acting a bit odd. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. So what do we need to do? Well, we need to add enemy spawn points to the entity spawn container, and we need to add a player spawn point as well. So what are those? Those are marker 2Ds. We'll add one of those just to the base entity spawn manager here. We'll call this one the player spawn. Let's go and move the player spawn to the center platform here. Let's go and link the player spawn point up and give it the packed scene for the player as well. Where is that player? There we go. Now in the enemy spawn point container, we're going to go and add a bunch more marker 2Ds. I'm going to put one in the bottom left corner, bottom right corner, on this platform here, and then we'll add a couple to the top here as well. So let's go and make sure we fill up the array and add the packed scene for the enemy. How many spawn points is that? That is 6. So let's go and increase the size of that array to 6 and start adding these in. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Yes, as I said, I'd like to really get your opinions on this stuff. Your opinions really matter to me, and I really want to make sure that the content I create is it's quality. I don't really want to aim for quantity usually. I prefer the quality. We also need to add the spawn points for our collectibles, so that's more marker 2Ds added to the collectible spawn point manager. Going to be setting these relatively high up, so one there, add one here, here. I'm just kind of dotting these around now. Add some to the underside of this platform, and that 9th one can disappear. We don't need that. That should... Yep, that's fine. Okay, let's go and link up these in the size. That's 8. So let's go and add these 8 markers and make sure that this starts to run. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Control S and save. Ignore that error because I don't know what that's doing right now. And I'm going to hit Control Shift A, and I'm going to add this real quick to the level container on the main menu because I just want to give this a really quick test. So we're going to hit play, see if it crashes. It crashed. Now, question becomes, why did that crash? Okay, so very quickly, if you get all of these errors here, where you're getting the create tile, cannot create tile, reset your Godot. This... I don't actually understand why this appears. It seems to be a tile set related error where it's trying to spawn tiles on top of tiles, which doesn't completely make sense, but this has been an issue in 4.2 that I've seen people talk about quite a bit. Resetting your editor seems to clear that up and stop it from happening. Now, why is this not doing what I want it to? Player spawn point, that one, player, that should function. That is not functioning. The level is disappearing. The level is disappearing, of course, because the dead zone is kind of grabbing everything and it needs to not grab everything, which means the dead zone's actual layer and collision are not set up correctly. So this needs to kind of be a mask for the player, the enemy, and the collectible, but not the floor. So that should stop everything from exploding. There we go. We can now move around. We need to make sure that everything is, of course, spawning. So collectible manager, the collectible timer is going to be running. Make sure the spawn timer is on 1 shot. Do we start the timer in the ready function? We do. Okay, let's go and check the entity spawn manager real quick. This, by the look of it, is being just a little bit grumpy at the timer not existing. Yeah, I'm going to go and replace that onReady variable with this timer again. Shouldn't need to do this, but I'm going to just in case that's causing some issues. Control S and save. That's still popping up. That's interesting. That's running still. That's on auto start. The time for this is currently sitting at... Make sure I check this in the correct scene. Got max enemies alive, we'll change that to 8. All of the basic setup that we needed to do before. Spawn time and min max will be 0 and 4, that's fine for now. Narrowing conversion, unused parameters, that's fine for now. That is ignorable, okay. Rain, there we go. Yes, I want to also go into level 2 here, and I want to change the time between, not the level 2. There we go. I want to go into main, I want to go under the game state manager, and I want to change the actual timer on this to be a bit more friendly, because it's currently at 3-second wait time. We don't want a 3-second wait time. We'll go for a 30-second wait time just to test the level and make sure that it's actually running. So instantiate is not working because it's coming onto a null value, which would mean in level 2, the packed scene for the enemy does not exist. It does not, because I forgot to add that. Let's go and do that real quick. There we go. Hit reset and go. Enemies do be spawning, coins do be falling from the sky, enemies seem to be reacting well and doing what they need to do. Perfect. So that is a new level 2 setup. We are going to go and kind of sort out some of the extra code stuff that we need to sort out now. The first thing we kind of want to do with this is we're going to want a new signal, and this new signal is going to be for level changed. We're going to want that in our signal bus, so let's go and add that real quick. Signal on underscore level underscore changed. Create a function for it, so emit, or func emit underscore on underscore level underscore changed. Void return type and no parameters. This is just a hey, let something know that something is happening signal. So let's go and emit that on level change dot emit. Boom, hit save. Ignore that random error that will keep popping up. After the video, I'm going to go and look into why that's happening. This wasn't happening with the other version, so it's very interesting. Very interesting. I would like to know what's changed with that. Okay, the next thing we want to do is go into the game state manager now. So let's go into the game state manager's scripts, and we want to go and change something. We actually want to go and set 2 things up, right? We are going to set up a load level function. Now for that, we're actually going to be needing 2 more exports here. So let's go and grab 2 more exports. The first one will be a variable for level underscore 1. This will be of typed packed scene, and it was the 2 null. And the next one will be an export for var level underscore 2 of type packed scene. So that equal to null. Now, very quickly, I'm going to say this like now. I know some of you want to see the very efficient code and the kind of what will be more final, and we will move into that as we go. But for now, we only want level 1, level 2, because we're only ever going to need level 1, level 2 until we actually move into reworking the system just a little bit more to have as many levels as we want. For now, we only need 1 and 2 to move on to the next thing we want to do. So yes, this isn't going to be the most efficient thing, but usually with coding, as you kind of go through what works, and then making it pretty kind of comes afterwards. So we're not going to worry about making this pretty just yet. So we want an export var for level 1 and an export var for level 2. And we're going to go and create a new function here for loading the level. Now I'm going to set this just above the run upgrade state here. Call this func load underscore level. Void return type because it doesn't need to return anything. And we now need to go get something. We need to create a variable for the level underscore container because this will be basically in control of loading and reloading certain levels depending on what we want to do. And making this change will allow us to remove some of the stuff we did in the previous video when it comes to how we're kind of globally storing certain things. And yeah, it's just going to make our life a lot easier and a little bit more decoupled, which is great. So var level container of type node 2D, and set that equal to the node extensions dot get underscore level container. So node extensions is one of the autoload scripts that we set up in a previous video. If you don't know what that is, I suggest going back and looking at it. You kind of need that. That's going to be a bit necessary. We're going to do our if check that we're very used to doing now. So if level container is equal to null, what do we want to do? We want to return. The next thing we're going to want to do is grab, so this is going to be a bit of a weird check, but we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do if level container dot get underscore child 0. So whichever level is currently contained inside the level container, and there should only ever be one, and that will be index 0. So get the child of 0 or index 0 does not equal null. So basically, if it exists, what we want to do is just use level container dot get underscore child in the brackets for index 0, and then use dot q free. So all this check is doing is making sure the level container is empty, and if it is not empty when this code runs, it's going to remove whatever is in the level container so it can replace it with what's coming next. So what's coming next? Well, what we want to do here is we're going to need a kind of third variable. We're going to need a variable that contains the current level. Now, there are two ways of doing this. We could use a Boolean, which might actually make a little bit more sense, or we don't need to use a Boolean. What we're going to do is use a variable that just contains kind of the level data, just for now. So we'll go var current underscore level. No, I'm rethinking this as we go. We are going to go var level underscore exists of type Boolean and set that equal to false. And now what we're going to do is do the check here. We're going to basically go if level exists does not equal true. So no level exists. What we want to do? Well, we're going to want to do our first level, right? We're going to want to make sure we instantiate our first level and the player can play level 1. So we'll go var new underscore level is equal to level 1 dot instantiate. Now we just want to add that as a child to the level container. So level container dot add child. We want to add level underscore, or sorry, the new level. There we go. And then finally, we want to set level exists equal to true. Now I'm going to do a really quick thing and just do a return out of this statement because I don't want to run any more code if it needs to run this code. Now the second if check we're going to do for this is checking if level exists equals true. So we'll go if level exists is equal to true. What do we want to do? Well, that means we have a level in there. Now, the reason you would store this as like a current level kind of data container is you could check what level you're on, which is something we might do in the future. But for now, well, we're just going back and forth between level 1 and level 2 and gives us this kind of infinite loop, which is very nice. We can just check if this is true or false, and depending on which one we choose, we can set to either level. So that's going to just be very useful for us. So if level exists is equal to true, we're going to go var new underscore level is equal to, or is of, yeah, so we'll just go is equal to level 2 dot instantiate. And then we'll pretty much do the same code as before. So level container dot add child new underscore level. And then we're going to do a really simple thing and just toggle level exists and set that equal to false. And once again, we'll return out. We don't actually need to return out, but I'm going to add a return out just kind of because I can. So what this is basically going to do is just loop us through level 1 and level 2, depending on what level needs to be instantiated or removed at any given time when we choose to do so. Now, the question becomes, when are we choosing to do so? Well, we're going to want to load the level immediately. So we'll go load underscore level. So on ready, load level. Okay, we're loading the level. And the next time we're going to want to do this is if we scroll all the way down to on upgrade state end, when we're moving away from the upgrade state, we are now going to want to load the level here other than reloading the current scene, because we now want to move away from that kind of resetting of the scene things. Just future systems are going to need us to have this level stuff in place anyway. And that should technically be it. Now, the question now becomes, if we remember, I got us to create a signal. Where are we putting this signal? Well, very quickly, we are going to come into here, back into our load level, between checking if the level exists, so if the child exists, and actually instantiating the level. We are now going to very quickly just throw the signal in here. So signal bus dot emit underscore on underscore level changed. And what do we want to do with this? Well, we're going to run into a really interesting little thing, right? If we just change our level like we're doing here, the player still exists and we'll end up instantiating a new player. Now, we could do some checks with that in the entity container to make sure only one player exists, and that might be a good idea. Or we can do kind of just handle the destruction from a signal, which is kind of what we're doing here. Now, to handle the destruction of a signal, because this isn't just going to affect the player, this is going to affect everything that has a death handler, which is kind of why I wanted to do this, because this opens us up a few little things that we can do in the future. So if we go into our file system, we type death and get the death handler, we'll open that up, and we go and give this a ready function. So func underscore ready, and we connect that signal. So signal bus dot on underscore level underscore changed dot connect to on underscore level underscore changed. We can now come all the way down to the very bottom here, create this new function to add the new functionality of what we want to do. And what do we want to do? Well, we're going to want to go get underscore parent dot. Now, if we remember correctly with how we've handling the containing of our handlers, our handlers are contained inside of the root of our character, but they're also contained within the the actual container that we've created. So we're going to need to use getParent.get underscore parent to do this twice. Now, to make sure you fully understand what I'm saying here, I'm going to go and load up the player scene real quick. Player camera, player entity. And if we check, if I use getParent once, the def handler will return the handler container. Now, if I use it twice, I'm now getting the parent of the parent. So I'm getting the parent of the handling or handler container and getting the player entity. That's why I'm doing it that way. I just want to make that very clear. So getParent.getParent.q3. Now, what that will do is Q3 everything that has basically Q3 the root of the parent of the death handler. And in the case of how we're holding things, everything that has these handlers should have a container to contain these things. So it should be safe. So I'm going to press play. It's going to crash because I didn't add the new exported levels to the game state manager here. So let's go and add those. Load scenes. We'll go to the levels. We'll do the base level. And we'll go load scenes levels level 2. We'll hit refresh and play. And now we're back to level 1 where we should be, right? This is back to pretty much before we made all of these changes. We have our level 1, everything is functioning again, and everything is functioning fine. And that's absolutely great. Now I'm just kind of rambling to let the timer tick down a little bit, because what should happen now is when we actually accept or apply any of the upgrades we want to apply, we should switch to level 2, which means we now have a pseudo level switching system, which is absolutely great. The other thing it does is, although it reinstantiates the player, it doesn't actually, everything froze, there we go. It doesn't actually, that's going to be an interesting thing to fix. It doesn't completely reset all of the variable things. So the way we're currently storing variables can actually change to be something a bit more sustainable in the future and a bit better speed and just safety wise. Now that is pretty much all I wanted to cover today. I talked about a lot of the Codeblock stuff. I really am sorry if this is a very chaotic video. I am a bit everywhere. I haven't really been thinking too clearly when it comes to code. So yes, we're going to be doing a new project at the same time as this project. I will be doing the one-off videos like I've done so far and working on this and a second project. And that's just going to be a lot of fun for me, and it's going to kind of get past this little bit of Codeblock that I have. Now, before I end this, we do have a Discord. The link is in the description. Please make sure to come down if you want to say hi or if you want to get help. It is the place I am most active. I try to respond to comments, but sometimes the Discord is just easier to handle because I have that open. I can see that, especially when I'm doing other things. Yes, so come down, make sure you say hi, ask questions, be happy, do all of the things. I hope you have enjoyed the video for the chaos that it has been. I hope you are having a great game dev journey, and I will see you in the next video.